Hey, this is Jared Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast, and in this episode, I'm speaking with Stephen Summers, who's the co-founder of Marketplace Superheroes, where they've sold millions of dollars of products globally on Amazon in multiple niches without any outside funding. And in this podcast episode, Steve and I specifically talk about how and why you need to get finance to scale your Amazon business. We also talk about the 3 statuses of products and why it's important to understand each stage that your product may be at, and how you can use that as leverage to grow your business. Then we talk about what to spend your budget on in relation to how much stock you should buy and then how much should you put into marketing. And then we talk about mindset, and it's easy to have a good mindset when things are going really, really well, but it's a lot harder when things aren't going so well. And a few things that you can do to make sure you put yourself in a great mental state to continue growing your business and have more fulfillment and fun in your business. Now, this is going to be such a valuable episode that you are certainly going to want to listen to, so check it out. Stephen, what's up? Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me here. It's great to speak to someone from your part of the world. I don't often get to do podcasts with people like yourself, so I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. We don't have too many people from UK on the pod, which is going to be fun to talk about Amazon with you today. Now, I just wanted to jump into the gold. On this podcast, we don't do fluff. We just get straight into the good stuff. So I wanted to just talk about your philosophy on expanding an Amazon business into new markets, because some people may have an Amazon business and they're probably focused on just, US, but there's so much more that can be done in scaling into other audiences and other markets. So tell us a little bit about your philosophy of how to sort of transition into being diversified in different markets.
Yeah, so it's really true that a lot of times when it comes to selling on Amazon, people do just go with, say, Amazon.com, for example. But yeah, like there's the Amazon market has grown so much, even since I started. Like I started selling on Amazon 11 years ago and successfully selling that for 11 years. It took me about a year and a bit to learn and do all the stuff I did with Robert and everything else, which we can mention. But in that time when I've been actively selling for like over 10 years now successfully, the growth's been huge. Like initially we actually went from the UK to the US. We added that market in. Then we went from UK into Europe then. Weirdly, we went to the US first because European markets were not very well established. And obviously, there's been people who have not expanded into Europe because of things like Brexit. They might have been in the UK and selling in other countries from the UK, and that's changed. But long and short of it is Europe, North America, and the UK are massive markets. And obviously now we've had Australia come into the market in the last year and a bit. We've had other countries over in Asia as well, Singapore, places like that. So if you're going to be serious about selling your products on a site like Amazon, it really makes sense to take as much advantage as possible of everything that you have available to you. And we're big believers on that. Right now, we focus our business on North America, so US and Canada, Europe being the UK, and then we also send our stock to Germany. It's held in stock in Germany as well, and that enables us to sell in all the European countries, and Amazon actually ship out to each individual customer from Germany. It used to be from the UK, but obviously when Brexit came in there, we've had to move our stock over to Germany for the European sales. We obviously sell in Australia as well, so they're our partners, and they're the main, and I mentioned Canada also, I think I did, but if not, Canada as well. So they're like the main markets that we focus our attention on at the moment. But as the years go on, places like Sweden are coming in, so they'll likely be taken care of via Germany, and it's just growing all the time. So it's a humongous market, and when you consider 50% of all sales made online right now are made on Amazon, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and so how do you decide how much inventory or stock you should purchase and put into a new warehouse? So let's just say, for example, you're in the UK and you're like, let's tap into the US. How do you know how much to buy at the start? And then work out like how to slowly scale that so you don't get to a position like, all right, I run out of capital to even buy more products. This is a huge thing when it comes to scaling an e-commerce business, right? And I've noticed that you've been able to scale without using funding. So is there some sort of formula that you use to know how much stock to buy when you're coming into a new market, new territory, and then also how to scale that without running out of capital really quickly?
Yeah, so I think think the first thing is the way we look at it now. So we have things available to us a lot of people don't. But if you're a member of our program and our community, you do get access to it, and that is our freight company. That's been a real game changer for people. So we run a business called Superhero Freight, where it's important I mention this because it actually just helps unlock these other countries. So what we do there is we put on containers from China, and they go to North America, they go to Europe, they go to Australia, and it allows people to take a batch of products. So if they get 1,000 units produced, 500 units produced, and when they're initially testing a country, they can split that order up in China, and they can use our freight service to ship their products to those different markets to initially test them. And the way we usually split that up would be we send the bulk of our inventory to North America. It's the biggest marketplace. Then we'd send, let's say, 60% there. You would send then about 30% to Europe, and then literally like about 10% to likes of Australia and places like that. Now, it doesn't work out obviously as beautifully and easily as that, because if you only have 300 units, you know, you're not going to send 30 units to Australia. That would make a lot of sense. So it's really a case though of just kind of looking at North America being the biggest market, then Europe, then you test the smaller markets. Australia, for example, a lot of people are really obsessed with Amazon Australia, and it is an interesting market, but it's still like people don't realize like Australia is obviously a big land mass, but actually population wise, it's not as big as people might think it is, you know. And I think that's the thing. It's like Europe is a much bigger opportunity than say Australia, for example, but because Australia is new, a lot of people really have become very focused on that. But I'm not saying it's not a good market now. We've had success there, but really it's always North America, Europe, etc. Now, in terms of then your question about, well, capital then and making sure you can stay in stock, yeah, like that is definitely something that we've also changed our view on. And actually, just to put a bow on the other thing, that I wanted to make it clear, the reason that the freight thing is important is twofold, actually. One, you can split up your orders, but two, Amazon have made changes over the last couple of years now, where they brought in something called the IPI, the Inventory Performance Index, which basically just means that you can't just send in 2,000 units of something into their warehouse and they'll hold it in stock anymore. You have to send your stock to a pre-Amazon location and send in a smaller quantity in there. And we always knew that was coming. So if you don't have a likes of our service or a freight partner, you're going to be in trouble in that regard. And then when you get into multiple countries, you're starting to multiply your issues, which is why that freight company we have is such a cool partnership long-term with our clients. So coming around then to the capital question, we did build our business without outside capital, but actually as the years have gone on, we've realized that was a real mistake. You know, we could have grown a lot faster and a lot easier had we have used capital. So now what we talk to our members about and ourselves, you know, we still obviously sell on Amazon. We partner with a lot of our members now, and we help them grow their business by putting capital into their companies, because, you know, capital is something that people, they run into issues because there's two reasons for that. First reason is you can have a product that goes mental. Like we've got two guys, we were speaking only like last couple of weeks, Nadeem and Alan in our community. These two guys, Nadeem has a product that legitimately will do $500,000, let's say dollars, just to keep the currencies easy, US dollars per year in revenue. And this guy's only getting into Amazon, so he's not really experienced. Alan, I think it was $300,000 for one item. So in order to place an order that's going to keep those guys in stock, you're getting into doing $60,000 ish of an order. So for some people, that is just not going to be something they can do. So at that point, we actually partner with those members and we help them invest. If they don't work with us, you need to go and work with an outside capital institution. The reason, I suppose, we didn't need it as much, it was that, number one, most of our products did not go off like crazy, which we were very fortunate, actually, looking back now. So we were able to grow with time. I think number two, whenever I started working with Robert initially, he was a bit more experienced than, say, you know, someone who has no experience whatsoever. So we had a little bit of capital, and we were able to access capital by selling, you know, stuff wholesale and stuff like that. But for most people coming in, they don't have that type of not luxury, because it really wasn't much of a luxury, because we were making very little when we were growing. We put everything we had into our company to grow fast, you know. So I think really the capital question for me, it becomes, when you establish a product, I now would say as early as possible, actually, try and get that funded, the products that are working for you. Because if you can get it funded, you're making 100% return on investment every time you make a sale or close to it. So you're doubling your money. If you're able to go to a financial institution, for example, and they give you money and you're paying, let's say 10%, which would be very high, but let's say you're paying 10% to a traditional institution, well, you're still making 90. That's Homer Simpson mathematics now, but that's roughly what we're talking about. And you don't have to put any money out. Somebody else is funding that. So I think like that was, I would say, a mistake we made over the years. It actually, we had a lot of opportunity cost because we would have these really great winning products and then we try bringing new ones. And then we'd start to put those products under pressure. Then we wouldn't have enough money to restock these ones. And at one point, we just got smart and we said, hey, what's driving our business here? Let's get them right first, and then let's move on to these ones. But I would say we've cost ourselves a couple of million in sales over the years by just not using outside capital, actually.
Yeah, I picked up on what you said of the old entrepreneur, thing that we suffer from, that when something's working quite well, we just want to we just go, all right, cool, if I've cracked the code with selling this product, how about I just sell as many more products like this as I can, which is a massive curse because I've had people that come to me and say, yeah, I want to buy a business and if it's an e-com, I just want to add more products to the line. But it's ridiculous because you split your focus up too much. You should always focus on what's working and discard what's not working and double down on what's working. So, Stephen, you were saying that, once somebody finds a winning product, it's really good to go away and get finance so we can buy more stock and start scaling and selling more product. But for, say, somebody who buys an Amazon business, right, because we teach people how to buy online businesses, say they've just purchased one and they go, cool, I've just spent my capital on purchasing this business because it's got a winning product. Now I want to go away and get finance so I can buy more stock and scale this. What are our options to getting finance for, an Amazon business to scale it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like buying any company, really. You're buying the asset, obviously, and then from there's going to be running costs to take that asset and make the most from it. And I think that's the thing about an e-commerce business in general that people have got to be really aware of. Like, an e-commerce business is a very capital intensive business. It just is, but the beauty of an e-commerce business is because it's capital intensive and you're putting something out there that people can buy, it's a very scalable in a very big way. But certainly, when you buy an Amazon business, you got to be ready, especially a private label business that we're talking about. You got to be ready to invest in the inventory. Now, obviously, if you've got a winning product, quote unquote, and it's working well for you and it's selling extremely well, the key then is going to be assessing the run rate of the product. So how many units is that product selling on an average day? And then you want to start looking at, how long does it take me to get that item produced in the likes of China? And then you obviously want to be looking at, as well as that, how long does it take for me to get these items into stock? I mean, you start looking at those different elements, what you can start to see is, if I'm selling 10 a day of this item, let's just say basic mathematics, that will mean over a month I'm going to sell 300 units. So if it takes me 3 months to get in stock, I'm going to need a minimum of 900 units just to stay in stock, and likely you're going to need more than that. So it's like you've got to start calculating out everything I just talked about, those run rates, how long it takes to get into stock, and then start assessing, if I'm selling this much a day and it takes this long to come in, how long do I have until I run out of stock? Because that's the trouble with buying Amazon businesses, especially if you're inexperienced. You got to be a little bit careful with that, because we've sold products in the past actually to different people where it just made sense for us at the time. We felt like, yeah, we could sell this and people will go and do it, and why not? They're a member, they're going to ship with us with the freight. We're happy enough to sell the product. So that was where we were a few years back. We started doing this. Now we don't anymore. Now we just invest in our members. It's just a much better way we found to grow. But when we did that, a couple of people bought stuff and they just did not keep it in stock because they had the thing you just said, I've just put money into buying this thing, and then it's like, this has to now pay me forever or whatever. It's like, but you got to keep it in stock too. So that is, I think, the trick to that. You have to be checking those run rates, and then you've got to go and assess, do I have the capital, or where can I get the capital? And I'd say if you buy an Amazon business and you haven't assessed those different things, you really shouldn't buy the business until you do that. And the business owner should be able to give you a real understanding of that. And also, when you're buying a business, you're probably going to buy a certain level of stock that comes with that company. So you obviously want to be looking at, how much stock do I have when I buy it? How much do I need to order now? And the likelihood is going to be you're going to need to place an order as you're coming into that business, because if you're not in stock at an e-commerce business, you can't make sales. And obviously, If you can't make sales, you can't make money, you can't grow the business, your investment isn't going to be something that's going to work out. But the same would be said for any e-commerce business. So they would be the things you have to look at, Jared. Very, very important.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's important to know we've got to have stock in. But say somebody has bought an Amazon business and they've bought it with stock and they know that how much they need. They know the questions that you've just asked before around, or they know the answers to them of like, how much do we need? How long is it going to take to get there? How long is it going to take to produce? How long is it going to take to run out of stock? And they've got all that calculated. It's all worked out throughout the due diligence, which is what people should be asking when they're doing due diligence on the business. So what are the options for, like, how do we get finance, or where do we go to get finance to purchase more stock?
Well, the bank is going to be the best place. Traditional financial institutions is going to be your best starting
point. Like a line of credit, like a business line of credit?
Yeah, line of credit is one way to go. So you can certainly go on an overdraft facility. That's one way to go. And again, that's going to come down to, you've got to do your cash flow projections. So you got to be looking at how much money you're going to bring in. And that's the nice thing when you're selling something that's already working on Amazon. You're going to be able to get you're going to be able to look out every 2 weeks or however often Amazon are paying that particular account. And you're going to start to project forward how many future sales you're expecting based upon the run rate that you're currently experiencing. And then you're going to be able to start to plot that out into your cash flow projections, like every 2 weeks or whatever it is. This is how much money we expect to come in from these various income sources. Obviously, then you're going to understand the costs in that business as well. They're going to need to be plotted out on a future cash flow projection, which you can do in a spreadsheet. I mean, it can be as simple as that, or it can be more complex depending on what way you run these things. Obviously, that's vital. But then a traditional financial institution, you can start there. And if you get a line of credit, so that can be an overdraft facility, for example, well, that can be very useful because we did that for many, many years. We had an overdraft facility. We would go into overdraft all the time. You're paying about 7.5% on that money, which is pretty good. But then the other thing as well that I'd have to say here is, like, there's a lot of variables, a lot of factors here. I mean, obviously, if you're buying an Amazon business, it's like, well, was your company already somewhat established? Like, have you got a history with a traditional lender? And if so, well, then you will likely get that line of credit. But I mean, if you've bought an Amazon business and you've no track record whatsoever, you're a brand new company, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get a line of credit from a bank. And so I would say, like, it depends on what level you're buying an Amazon business at too, right? I mean, if there's a big difference between products that are doing $1 million a year in revenue and doing $100,000 a year in revenue, so there's a lot of factors there. It's very hard to say, because asking for a line of credit of 10 grand is very different to asking for a line of credit of $500,000 or 100,000. So obviously it'll depend on those factors as well. But I would always start with that traditional lender, simply because the lowest interest rates from anybody else. And really on from there, like, I mean, we offer capital to our members. We've got a thing called Superhero Capital that we do. We charge a lot more than a traditional lender because we're not a bank. And that works well for a lot of our members. Yeah, but that's where I would begin. And then from there, really, like, there's lots of other online options. But honestly, I don't have massive experience with a lot of those options, like Cabbage and things like that. Some people now, when it comes to Amazon as well, they go in and they start utilizing like Amazon specific solutions. Amazon themselves offer some lending, and there's lots of other people out there as well. But you need to know your run rates to take that money, because that money is a lot more expensive,
Yeah, like, the massive caveat for everybody listening: we're not lawyers, and the big caveat is that you must know your ROI on that capital that you're going to get. Otherwise, you're putting yourself at huge risk. So there's a big caveat there. So make sure you know your numbers. And we may even touch on how important reporting and accounting is for an e-commerce business if we get to it. But I do want to touch on now PPC and marketing and budgeting for that as well. So let's use very round numbers. Say we go away and we want to, we've got 100K and we want to buy more stock and we also want to market that stock on Amazon PPC. Is there a ratio that you're using that you've seen that's worked well for people? And I know that this can change based on, the CPA of a product as well, but what have you seen that would work well for somebody that's just thinking about purchasing more stock?
That's a very difficult question. Some people will come at it from a different point of view. I can only come at it from the point of view, like the experience we have, right? And that is we grow products from scratch, and we do buy other people's products that are somewhat established. But the key factor to that really, Jared, is that people have gone through our research methodology and they've uncovered products that are not hyper competitive, and there is a lot of room in the market to be successful.
Yeah.
Even without PPC, honestly. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that people do not use PPC in our world, because that's just not true. They do. But our PPC spend compared to, let's just say, someone who's in a much more hyper competitive space would be very small. Like Ali, one of our partners, we document the growth of his business on our YouTube channel and stuff like that. He's heading on now. Last month there, we've been growing this for a little bit over a year now with him. He did like over 70, 80 grand revenue. It was over 80 grand last month revenue. So he's well on track to do his $1 million US a year in revenue run rate. But his PPC spend is tiny. I have to get the exact spend now, but it's a couple of grand, a few grand a month. Like, it's not like he's investing a massive amount of money. But at a very basic level, you have to look at the A cost, the advertising cost of sales. And so you want to obviously keep that A cost ideally below 30%, because most products are going to make 30% of the sales price as your profitability. So if you're selling something for $20, you're looking for what we call a 30% POR, profit on return, which basically is going to mean you're going to make $6 on a $20 sale traditionally. Now, if your advertising cost of sales is any more than 30%, you're breaking even or you're losing money every time you make a sale. So obviously there, your A costs has got to be below 30% on a consistent basis for it to make sense. And it's actually got to be a lot less than 30% over the long term for it to make sense, because even if it was 20% in the long term, you're now only making 10% on that product now. So if you were selling something for $20, you're not making $6 net profit before tax, you're making $2. Now, that's okay if your volume is jumping up massively, but these are things you do have to be aware of. The other mistake people make is they try to make their PPC, they try to account for PPC at a product level when they're researching or when they're looking at something. In other words, they try to make it a cost of sales. Yeah. It's not a cost of sales, because it'll change depending on what you put in.
It's variable.
Exactly. Yeah. So it depends. But I would just say in our case and the types of products that we sell, our PPC spend is actually very small. But I know that if you buy something that's very competitive, you really need to look at the PPC spend and the A cost that the current brand is experiencing, because you need to understand what that A cost is, because if that's over 30% on a consistent basis, you now know that person's actually breaking even on their Amazon sales and maybe even losing money. And that's an issue for you if you're buying something that's actually potentially even losing money, and it may look better than it actually does because it's the BSR is low, the bestseller rank is low, whatever the case may be. And that's the trouble in the hyper competitive spaces. People are kind of chasing that, and that's a tricky position to be in. So I wouldn't chase. I just don't get into markets like that, basically. But I'm not saying I don't use PPC. I'm just saying it's not like our spend would be very low compared to most.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody's in business has their own strategy, and I just think it's very interesting to hear everybody's different strategy, because there are people that like, hey, I'm happy to make 10% margin, or POR, just to make sure I can take over the market and get so much more market share on Amazon for my product. And they're the people that are playing a very, very long game and have big budgets and can even get down to like just zero profit to win that market over a longer period of time. And if somebody's thinking about that, then they really need to have scaled an Amazon business before. So I do like the method that you, finding a product that isn't in a saturated market or doesn't have that much competition on Amazon, because it's a fierce it's a fierce competitive landscape for sure. Now, I wanted to ask about more scaling questions, because this is something that a lot of people are going to be interested in for the podcast. Aside from marketing budget, aside from having a winning product, and aside from having enough capital to purchase more product, more stock, what would be one other thing that would prevent people from scaling?
Yeah, well, you're probably not going to like my answer because it's probably going to be a little bit boring for you, but it's the reality. And the answer is, you said winning product, and I would just put an S there, because you don't, in my opinion, and in the way we run our business, we don't have a winning product. We have multiple products in all of our businesses, and that is the easiest way to grow faster and I suppose better, more scalably, whatever. It's just by buying more products and having more products to sell. If you look at, say, Jay Abraham and his 3 ways to grow a business, which is a really great model, for anybody who doesn't know, depending on the business, it's always going to be way number 1 is sell more products, get more customers. Way number 2, increase your average transaction value. Way number 3, sell to your existing customers more often. Well, way number 3 is a bit tricky on Amazon because they're not our customers, they're Amazon's customers. So to me, then what we have available to us is get more products into the business so we can start selling to more of those people, increase the average transaction value, so the average sales price over time, sell things that are more expensive. Not saying $100, not saying $50. There's no set amount. It's just like people start out and they try to sell these things that are $13.99 and just takes a long time to. Not saying you shouldn't do that now, because again, there could be if you look at the research and it makes sense, you should sell that. But actually, you want to have multiple items in your business, and also it's important to understand the way we look at it is every product has a bit of a journey. So there's 3 types of products. The first product, not 3 types, 3 statuses, I suppose, of a product. The first status is we say it's a winner. So a winner is it's doubling its initial investment. So you're getting 100% profit on investment or return on investment. I know we talked about profit on return a second ago. It's actually the exact same amount of money. It's just expressed differently. So profit on investment or return on investment is like, how much did I grow my initial money by? What percentage is that? And then the other thing would be, well, that's how much that is, but how much is that as a percentage of my sales? So that's an easy way to calculate. Well, if I'm doing 10 grand a month or whatever in sales and I'm at 30% POR, I know then I'm making about 3,000 per month before corporate tax. Let's just say at a very basic level. And then the profit on investment is just, well, how much did I grow my initial money by? So we always want to grow our money by 100% when we make a sale. So coming around to what I was talking about there, when we look at it in this way, then I'm actually I went off on such a tangent. I got lost there, Jared. So because it's early in the morning here for me as well. So I was talking about where was I going there? Holy crap!
The 3 statuses of products. So
there we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, Jared, you're that's why you're a great host. You're with me. So the winner is the first one. Then it's doubling its money. And I would say within a 9 to 12 month period of time. And again, that's, if you look at that as an investment, doubling your money in that period of time is a really good investment. And we have to look at it in that way. So then it moves to the next status when it moves into a worker. So a worker is that it's doubling its money, but also it's selling out in less than 9 months. So that's great because we're starting to realize our money a lot faster. We're seeing profits come back in a lot more quickly. That's great. And the final thing is a star. The product is selling out. It's doubling its money routinely in 3 to 6 months. And that takes time for a product to develop from a winner right through to a star. So if you're buying into the business, you have to look at that as well. Because if you've got items that are selling out within 3 months, the inventory that you're purchasing, that's great because you're turning your money faster, but also you're going to need more capital because it's hungry in order to take the growth of that. Because again, if your run rate's starting to tell you this could sell it in 2 months now, obviously you need to buy more in order to keep it in the stock. And that's the trick. When everyone wants to scale, but I always say be careful what you wish for, because when you really start to scale a business, it becomes very complex. And I know this because we now run multiple businesses. our companies together do heading on for 20 million a year in revenue now. And so that's complicated. Like, and even me, like people like Robert, my business partner, he's even better than I when it comes to understanding the scaling portion of that, because that's a totally different thing to you're just starting out and making money. So anyway, they're the
Yeah,
three
for
phases
sure.
of a product. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. We've got a few members in our mastermind, a few which own Amazon businesses, and one who just purchased one, and upon purchasing it, he had a previous Amazon business and scaled that one and sold it, and then from buying this new one that he just purchased, he put a lot of what he knew from his old business into this new Amazon business, and started just selling out products, and didn't know how quickly they would sell and ran out of stock pretty quick. And then on the other hand, we have somebody in the group who's doing 1.5 mil per month, and he has been doing this over years, and is selling a lot of product, but knows his runway, knows how much, and as he scales his ads and he scales, his sales and how much he sells, he just knows methodically how much more to purchase and then how much more to put into advertising and on different channels as well. So it's not something that you can just know straight away until you really understand your numbers, right? So I wholeheartedly agree with you. Be careful what we wish for in terms of scaling, because it presents its whole new set of problems. And we always say, they're good problems to have, but are they? Because it creates a lot of stress too.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. And it depends what you want from your business. Like, your business is there to serve you, and it's there to serve your lifestyle. And even with myself, like, as I've gone on and grown different businesses and all of that, like, I mean, the really nice thing about our Amazon investments that we have and companies that we control, like, I don't have to do anything in those. They're just happening, and people are controlling them. We're making sure we're staying in stock. We're bringing in new items. Whereas other businesses that I'm involved in, Marketplace Superheroes, for example, it's a lot more active. I have to be involved a lot more. I'm doing things like this, which I love to do, by the way, which is why I do it. But it's like, what do you want from this business? Like, if you want to be bringing in 100 grand a year from this, it pays you 100 grand a year, and that's where you want to be. Like, you don't need to be doing 1.5 million a month, for example. Like, not to say like you should just, I'm going to stop now, I'm not bringing any new products, because that's dangerous territory. I'm just saying, like, you should be clear about what you want from the business first, and then the business serves you, and then go from there. Like, I mean, it really isn't that difficult to get an Amazon business to bringing in like 100 grand a year for you. Like, you're talking there about probably doing about 700,000, 800,000 in revenue, and then you could certainly be taking that amount of money out pretty easily. Because obviously that's the other thing too. When you're growing an e-commerce business, or any business for that matter, like, you have to get the engine oiled enough to a degree that it's comfortable for you to be able to take out that money. And if you're taking out money from a business at the expense of growing that business, that's really not a good idea. And I see that happening, Jared. Like, I see people coming into our community and they're at a smaller level, like maybe they're just getting going. The minute they start making money, they start drawing money out of the business. And it's like, no, you can't do that,
They don't have the long-term mindset. And I want to touch on mindset in my next question, but I wholeheartedly agree with you. Is like, and this is very hard for beginners to understand what they want out of their business, especially for somebody that's like, hey, I want to get away from my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But when you become a bit more settled and you've got a bit of experience as a business owner, then really the penny drops of like, where can I find fulfillment in my business, and where can I outsource those tasks that I don't like to do and do more of what actually does fill my cup up. Like you love podcasting. I love podcasting. Do I like editing? No, I hate it. I don't even know how to do it. And the same with you. Like, there's so many parts of your business that you just wouldn't even consider doing. And this is another level of a business owner, but I think it's great for people that are beginners to start to think about, because if they're drawing money out of the business, then they won't even have anything to pay to outsource those tasks that they don't want done in the future as well, which I think is important, is having that long-term mindset. And talking of mindset, again, Stephen, is when we're starting out, you know, we do have those self-doubts that creep in, right?
Yeah.
And in business, I mean, it's easy to have a great mindset and be in a good spot when business is going well. Let's face it, it's easy. But what about those times that aren't rolling easily? Like, what do you sort of help and guide people with mindset in your community, and what do you tell them about having a solid mindset?
Yeah, all the time.
With those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I like to call it a mentality, and the reason for that is because I always say, you know, why would we want a mindset, right? We don't want it to be set, right? And so but we all know what mindset means, right? It's like it's a word we're all using to describe something good. But I always like talking to our members about a mentality, because then they understand, first of all, well, that can change. And like you said, I fully agree. Like, I mean, yeah, when things are going great, I've got an amazing mindset. Oh yeah, I'm attracting wealth every day, you know, of course. And then things start getting tough, like, you know, and I've had loads of challenges like over our business career. Still even now, different types of challenges, you know. Thankfully, money is not as an issue. Like, I mean, when I started out, Rob and I started out, we put everything we had into our business. We had to make it work because of the way things were. Like, we had warehouses, staff, and all this kind of stuff. We had to get rid of a lot of those things initially, only to build them back over the years in a much better way. But like, the big thing I tell people, if you're going through a tough time, first of all, is you've got to live in what's called day tight quarters or day tight compartments. So like, don't think too far into the future. Focus on now. Focus on today. And then when you take care of today, tomorrow will take care of itself, and time in the future will take care of itself. Not to say you shouldn't have any like goals or anything like that. Definitely not. But it's like, if you're always living in the future, you're never really going to do anything. And if you're living in the past, well, the past has already been and gone, so there's nothing we can do about that. So really, the only power we have is in right now, and that we can make choices and decisions that benefit us right now. So that's the first thing I would do if you're going through a tough time. On from that then, and this is something that you got to be careful of, like, if you invest your own self-worth, your own happiness in sales, for example, well, you are going to go on a roller coaster of emotions. And I know this because I've done it. Like, I have defined my own sense of self-worth based upon how well the company's doing. And so that means then you'll feel great whenever, you know, sales are going well, things are going amazing. And you're going to feel awful when things are going badly, because you're going to judge yourself. You're going to say you're useless. You're no good. I can't believe I ever thought I was going to be successful doing this and all the rest. Whereas what you have to understand is, like, it's just numbers. And it's just pure numbers. And there's no emotion in numbers whatsoever. And Robert, my business partner, is brilliant at this. And I've learned that from him over the years. So we've got to start looking at the numbers then, and looking at, well, what is causing the numbers to be where they are right now? And we have to try to find the causation so that we can actually take steps today to make changes that are going to then manifest themselves in better numbers over the next few weeks, months, whatever. So that's really important. I think then as well, really just taking that full responsibility for everything is really, really vital, because there's things even now I could be doing in my business that I know will benefit me. But honestly, I'm just not prepared right now to do that stuff. And that's okay. If I'm not prepared to do it, then I shouldn't also expect to get the results from having not done that, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so you have to understand it is all your responsibility. Does that mean as time goes on you have to do everything? Definitely not. Because part of being your responsibility as time goes on is when you are outsourcing things, it's like, well, if you know that thing needs to happen, but you're not the one who's going to do it, then it's up to you to take the responsibility to go and find someone who is going to go and do that. So there's some of the things I would initially start with. And then really on from there, a lot of this is just looking at, why is this happening? What can I change? Why is this happening? What can I change? And as time goes on, you'll get better and better at those things. And one of the big things I do see is just like, people don't keep their finger on the pulse as time goes on. So, you know, they're not checking their run rates to see where they are now. And from that perspective, They're not looking at the business, future cash flow, projecting out. These are all things you could do now that would help you down the line. So I think that's where most problems stem from. It's very rare that like you're just so unlucky that just, all factors conspire against you and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Almost all the time there's stuff you can do. Even in our community, people come and say, oh, my product's not working or whatever. It's not doing what I want it to do. And then I'm like, okay, so give me the numbers. Like, how many sessions did you have last month? What's your conversion rate right now? All of that. And it's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, so you're complaining, but you haven't actually looked into what's causing this to be a problem. And therefore, they're the people I know, unless they make a change, they're not going to be successful. Most successful people in the world take responsibility for everything. And the thing you can say to yourself is, what am I pretending not to know right now? That's a really powerful question because, so many things we pretend not to know. Like I'm eating crappy food today. Well, I'm pretending not to know that if I keep doing that, I'm going to end up with a bad illness in the future or whatever the case may be. So there's just a few thoughts.
Yeah, it's great. It really does come back to responsibility. And I think, pretending to not know something is important to understand that we do this by default at times. And I really like to tell people to have space and give themselves space to be able to just think about their business and look over it as a whole and see what is working, what's not working, and tighten up a few things and discard things and, prune and ask questions, how can I do this better? Or how can I de-risk that part of my business so this thing won't happen? And I think the mindset or the mentality of people like just, it's going good, it's just going to keep going good, that's where things start to slip up because we're not in the constant state of preparation for what may happen in the future. And I think that doesn't really get talked about or people don't emphasize that enough. Yeah. So, Stephen, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Where can we send people to find out more about you and Marketplace Superheroes?
Yeah, so with Marketplace Superheroes, the couple of spots. The first place I'd recommend is obviously going to marketplacesuperheroes.com. You can put in /gift, GIFT, and that'll actually bring you to just a little 7-day training that we have that you can definitely check out if you're interested in how we go about selling on Amazon. And the second place is just YouTube. We really put a lot of effort into our YouTube channel. We're very, very happy with it. We feel it's really good, of course. We put a lot of effort into that. So go over to YouTube and just search Marketplace Superheroes, and you'll see we're putting out 2 videos every single week. We put a lot of effort into that. And I suppose the final thing is, seeing as we're on a podcast here, we have our own podcast called The Superhero Lifestyle Show. And feel free to check that out and have a listen, and hopefully you'll get lots of value.